All right, let's talk Los Angeles Rams. And folks, you know we've got some good stuff for you today because I'm calling from an undisclosed location, supposedly on vacation with my family, but this news is so important. This data is so exciting. We're going to talk about it with you right now. Before we get into that, though, I'm Nick. That is my co host, Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, training camp is almost here. Football is almost finally back, folks. But there's a lot of news still floating around. A lot of guys that we have a lot of anticipation for, certainly on this Los Angeles squad. They've done a great job evaluating and drafting rookies over the past couple seasons. And there's another guy emerging. I think a lot of Rams fans highlighted this earlier this offseason, but we've done some research ourselves, and there's a lot to like. We're talking about, of course, linebacker Sean Dolac from the University of Buffalo. Let's pull up the article here first, then we'll get into the data on the other side. All right, from the report, the Los Angeles Rams have a long history of turning undrafted players into key contributors, and Sean Dolac might be next in line. The rookie linebacker out of Buffalo has been turning heads during OTAs, and he's already earned high praise from inside linebackers coach Greg Williams, who didn't hold back when asked about Dolac's early impact. All right, so this is a little older story right now, but this is Greg Williams, the linebackers coach, not to be confused with the longtime defensive coordinator. I made that mistake before myself. Sean could probably take you out there and teach you the defense right now, Williams said. He is a quick study man. He really is, and that's one thing you respect from him. I think from the way he plays the game above the neck and the way he had tackled in college, if he does that, Sean's going to be another guy that will be somebody to reckon with. All right, so Dolac, obviously, for anyone following the Rams really deeply over the course of OTAs and rookie minicamps and that entire phase, impressed everybody. But this comments from the inside linebackers coach came to light to us only recently, and that really made us stop and think, right? We look at the Rams, we look at all of the quality moves they made through the draft and a lot of the young guys they've added. Could they have pulled off one of the bigger steals? We talked about Hosea Stewart, defensive lineman from Michigan, about a week or so ago, and we said, listen, this guy's numbers are off the charts. Then we took a look at Dolac, and oh my goodness, folks, it is bonkers. Let's pull up our first chart here to highlight what we're talking about. Again, Sean Dolac was an undrafted free agent, was not selected in the NFL draft. We compared his analytics, his grades, to the top linebackers. We're talking first and second round picks in the 2025 NFL draft. And folks, his numbers don't just look good. They completely outclass the top guys. So if you look on the screen in front of you here, we've got Jihad Campbell, who was a first round pick. We got Carson Swessinger and Demetrius Knight, who are second round picks, working left to right. And you have Dolac on the far right. And we broke down every single metric according to PFF. You can see the overall grade in blue, the run defense grade in that reddish color, tacklings in yellow, pass rushes in green, and coverage is in orange. And you can work left to right, folks, and you can see it for yourselves. Dolac is better than each and every one of these guys in every single category. The one exception is Swessinger has a slightly higher pass rush grade. That's the only really thing that jumps out to me. You can look at the data for yourselves on the screen. Again, Dolac, undrafted. These other three guys, first and second round picks. Now, you can make an argument that because Dolac played at Buffalo, okay, level of competition, Campbell and Knight were in the SEC, Swessinger obviously playing for UCLA, completely different competitive environment. That's fair. But even if you put a 10 to 15% competition-related haircut, you lower Dolac's numbers by 10, 15%, he still compares very favorably and is still ahead of a lot of these guys when it comes to the analytics. And folks, that is an incredible amount of value to get in an undrafted free agent. Now, we're not saying Dolac is perfect. He has some flaws. There's a lot of reasons he fell completely out of the draft. But when you look at these good quality football players that have numbers off the scale like this, it really jumps out at you. And I really want to highlight one more thing, is that Campbell's, Swessinger's, and Knight's, they have good numbers, right? Their data is excellent. It wasn't like these guys were drafted in the first and second round just because, they were athletic phenoms or something like that, and teams selected them for their potential. These were guys analytically in front of you. You can see it. They're grading out in the 80s and the 90s and the high 70s. They're crushing it. They did a really good job their final season in the collegiate ranks. Dolac was just absolutely unbelievable from an analytical perspective. He completely outclasses them. Again, even with a haircut, if you compose a 10, 15%, decrease on Dolac's numbers, he still is at the same level, if not better than the other three guys when you look at his analytics. You talk about a steal, you talk about value, folks. this is what we're talking about. But let's not just focus on these three linebackers. Let's compare Dolac to another potential steal already mentioned on the Los Angeles Rams. We're talking about, of course, Chris Paul Jr., or Pooh Paul as he's referred to. We compared those two numbers because we know Paul seems to be a high candidate to be a potential steal for the Rams. Boy, it seems every draft cycle they get like 20 of these guys. But you can go through the numbers here. Paul is in blue, Dolac's in red, and you can see very clearly it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at this data and say, look, from an analytical perspective, overall grade, run defense grade, tackling grade, pass rush grade, and coverage grade, Dolac was better across the board. Not even close. Now, look, you can look at pass rush and say they're even, but everything else, not even close. Dolac was better. Again, you can look at the competitive environment, right? And that's fair. It's a completely honest gripe. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So even if you lower Dolac's grades correspondingly to get it, 10, 15% lower, he's still at the same level as Pooh Paul. And Paul was a 5th-round pick, considered a massive value. Dolac is undrafted. So that speaks to the value the Rams got with this undrafted linebacker. And look, like I said before, there's a lot of reasons he wasn't picked up. We're not saying this guy's a perfect prospect that somehow slid through the cracks, But the reality is he is a phenomenal football player. He was a tackling machine at Buffalo. And the fact that Williams, the inside linebackers coach, mentioned during mini camps and OTAs that he has the right head on his shoulders and they expect him to go out and just mentally handle things at a high level in training camp. Folks, to be an inside linebacker in the National Football League, or any position in the NFL, to be totally honest, you need to have a high football IQ. You need to be able to pick up, understand, and relay the concepts. The fact that Dolac was so productive in college, the fact that his analytics are off the freaking charts when compared to his peer competitors, and the fact that he's off to a good start and is a smart football player. You talk about the anatomy of an undrafted free agent steal, this is what you're talking about. All right, Miles, I know you've got a few thoughts on this, but first, Rams fans, the Ramley, as I like to say, in the comment section below, we're talking undrafted free agent guys. So let me ask you this. Who is, in your opinion, the best undrafted free agent the Rams added in team history, right? You can go a lot of different directions with this. You go old school, you go new school, kind of in between. Really curious where you guys lean here. So give us, in your opinion, the greatest undrafted free agent in Rams history and put them in the comment section below. And while you're down there, make sure you sign up for our weekly newsletter via the Substack platform. There's a link in the description box below. 100% free, gets you extra content. We put in extra thoughts, articles, videos, extra stuff for you guys. And we also highlight the comment of the week. So if you have a great comment, you may find yourself in the Substack letter. So make sure you sign up for it. Again, link below, 100% free. But Mize, over to you now. What are your thoughts on this latest update out of LA?
Yeah, by all accounts, it looks like the Rams have done it again. Another potential steal, undrafted free agent coming in. And this doesn't surprise anyone at this time. The Rams always get great young players in who can overperform in, their draft status where they're supposed to be. Obviously, the big one, most recently, Puka Nakua, a guy selected in the 5th round, came to be the top wide receiver in the NFL last year. They're just always looking and always able to find top performers, guys that outperform expectations. But when you look at what Dolac has done, it's very surprising that guys like this slip through all the way through the draft and become undrafted free agents. Maybe he's a touch on the smaller side. He could gain a little bit of weight. That's not too difficult to do. But other than that, like you said, his stats are off the charts. His analytics are crazy, and there's a couple things I want to touch on, and it's not just one outstanding season of analytics. The last 3 years he has played with Buffalo in significant snaps as well. He's done really, really good. He's gotten better every single year. In 2022, he had high 70s grades, like 79.5, 78.8 coverage grade, 81 overall grade, which is very, very good. You go to 2023, 85.9 run defense grade, great grade, 78.7 tackling grade, great grade. He's getting better every year. He's got great grades for 3 years back. So that's one thing that people always talk about. Are these guys one hit wonders? Are these guys that, sat on the roster, had one really good season, and we're not sure if they can have sustained success? Well, this guy definitely can have sustained success. But there's one other aspect of this guy's game I think is really, really interesting and very crucial to this Rams team that he can add a lot is his ability to make big plays, whether it's in the pass rush or in coverage, really quite impressed me. You look at what he did this 2024 season, 5 interceptions in coverage for Sean Dolac. That is ridiculous. You look at a guy like Travis Hunter, a corner, supposed to be one of the best corners in all of college football. He had 4 interceptions last year. So this guy is a ball hawk at the linebacker position, which is really quite a special skill to get. But for him to get 5 interceptions last year, I think that was great. But on top of that is also to get able to get 5 sacks, 16 total pressures, and 5 sacks. That's good too. So a guy that can both rush the passer to create pressure and make the play, get some big time sacks, and drop back into coverage and grab those interceptions. Those are game changing type of players. Those are game changing type of plays. This is the player that you want on the Rams. You want a guy back there that you can get in there and he can start to change the scheme of the defense. You gotta look up front. We gotta fortify the offensive line. Sean Dolac's coming on the rush. He can get through, be able to run the passer. But we do that too much. He drops back into coverage. We got to be worried about this guy coming and grabbing a pass out of this guy, interception, making a big play there as well. So Sean Dolac, he covers a lot of bases. He's tenured. He's done a lot of good stuff for multiple years now. Great analytics, matches up better than most of the top tier linebackers in this draft. Plus, he has some game changing plays under his belt as well. This guy seems like the perfect mix, like you said, for the anatomy of an undrafted free agent steal. You look it up in the dictionary, and Sean Dolac's name is probably written right there against next to undrafted free agent steal. I'm excited for the Rams about this guy, and I think he could potentially make a lot of noise this season if he's able to get on the field for the Rams.
Yeah, so the one concern I have with Dolac, and it's not necessarily a bad thing for him, but it's over the course of his career. You talk about him getting better and improving, and that's critically important. To me, that's an indication. It kind of confirms what Coach Williams said earlier in the article that we referenced about him being a smart player. I always like to say smart players, they improve. It makes sense. The more film you see, the more snaps you see, the more of the opposition you see, the better you get, right? I think that's a fair indication of a high football IQ. But if you look at Dolac as a guy who got better and better and better, the question is, will he get enough reps? Will he get enough opportunities to get better and improve into becoming an NFL quality linebacker? And I think the answer will be yes, because I think he's the prime practice squad candidate. I think in preseason, the Rams, Sean McVay, very intelligently for a long time, they played no starters or very, very few. They let the young guys get a lot of reps. So you talk about a perfect opportunity. It's not like he's going to go to a team where they play the starters, a lot of them free agency, and then they play the second string 90% of the time in free agency until the final preseason game. The Rams are the opposite. They'll play nobody except the young guys every single preseason game. So Dolac's going to get a lot of opportunities, a lot of repetitions. So it's going to give him that chance to use what he does best, his high IQ, his mentality, learn the NFL game, figure it out. Now, look, he's a practice squad guy, I think, for most of the year, unless injuries occur. I think Pooh Paul is certainly more NFL ready if you're looking for a young linebacker to step up in the front seven of the Rams defense. But if you look at an opportunity maybe late in the season or certainly long term, Dolac is a guy to keep an eye on. He's got all the tools you want. I know people look at his athletic skill set and say, he's a little smaller. How quick is he? His agility. I get all of that, but give me the guy who makes the play, right? Give me the guy who makes a tackle, who makes a stop, who intercepts the pass, who sacks the quarterback. Give me the guy who's a good football player, right? This game is about winning with good football players. The Rams proved that with the addition of Puka Nacua. They proved that with a number of other additions over the past few years. Great value finds, great strategies. They went out and got good football players that play good together. If you do that, lo and behold, success happens. I see Dolac following that same pattern for this Rams squad. And look, I'm not saying he's a day one starter. Maybe we'll see what happens, of course, over the period of training camp and preseason. But I think it's clear when you look at the data and you look at the situation and look at the fit. Remember, he's going to get a lot of opportunities the way the Rams and McVay run preseason. I'll look at Dolac being a guy who will improve as the preseason training camp goes on. He'll improve as the season goes on. And either by the end of this season or sometime in the future, he'll emerge as a quality player for this Rams defense.